Yeah.
system that it's going through.
The Indiana Environmental Council.
So I am not Bill Emerson, for those of you that are wondering. I was just asked to chair the meeting because I'm a NERC commissioner. So I came just to sit in on the meeting, and now I'm the chair. So how about that? So I'd like to call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you are able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think introductions are probably appropriate. Catherine, would you start and we'll go around the room?
Sure. Catherine Zoltema with the Indiana DNR Lake Michigan Coastal Program.
Richie Gonzalez, Executive Director of Indiana Animal Sport Partnership, and chair of this group.
Susan Halo with the Nature Conservancy.
Nancy Mullenpower, Michigan City Council, and also President of Save the Dance.
Brian Missy, Director in Indiana. Jacob Mia, new Conservation Coordinator for Save the Dunes.
Team Happen, Save the Dunes.
Kathy Sippel, Earth Charter Indiana and Northwest Indiana Regional Resilience.
Kate Nelson, Northwest Indiana Forum.
Ellen Capitan, City of Valparaiso, City Council.
Sorry, Jen Birchfield, I'm the Natural Resources Planner with NERC. Kenny Luther, I'm the Director of Environmental Programs with NERC.
And I'm David Phelps. I'm President of Beverly Shores Town Council. Okay, next item are the meeting minutes from August 7th, 2025.
These were set out, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion in a second. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Public comments. We have two people that have signed in to make public comment. If there's anyone else that they want to just let us know. First one, Connie Wakala from Highland.
Where do I stand?
That's fine.
Hi, Connie Wachala from Highland. I'm a member of Highland Neighbors for Sustainability, but I'm also a member of the Sustainable Steel Cohort. The cohort has 16 members, and we all have some tie to the steel industry. One person is a steel worker and a union rep. Another, a woman, is a retired steel worker. Several have parents who worked at the mill. There's also a pastor, a public school teacher, a psychologist, and a retired medical doctor. My connection to the industry is that all four of my grandparents came from Poland separately to work in the mills in the early 1900s when they were opening up. Many of my uncles retired from the mill, although my father retired from the refinery. So we care about what happens to the industry, and I'd like to speak about our concern. In Northwest Indiana, a healthy steel industry means a healthy population and a healthy economy. What happens to the steel industry is not just an environmental question. Thinking long-term, unless the mills modernize, we fear that they won't last several more decades. Moving beyond blast furnace technology to the direct reduced iron furnace, which would mean lower pollution and a healthier resident and worker population, isn't just good for public health, it's necessary to maintain the economic vitality of Northwest Indiana. So Nippon plans to invest $3 billion in Gary Works, including $300 million to reline the number 14 blast furnace. We would like to see their investment include modernizing NDR technology, the technology that newer mills in the South and the West are using. So the group GARD, Gary Advocates for Responsible Development, is working hard on this issue. And I have a pamphlet that they have prepared that explains what they're doing. May I pass them out?
Sure.
I'd also like to ask if a member of GARD could be on the agenda for the next meeting to explain the research they've done. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The next commenter is Susan Mahalo.
Yeah, I'm here to tell you about some exciting things that are happening this next 2 weekends, actually starting tomorrow. But really, it all started 5 years ago when the Nature Conservancy was funded by the Lake Michigan Coastal Program to do a tree inventory, urban forestry plan in the city of Gary Parks. And starting tomorrow, we are going to be planting 100 trees, 82 in Marquette Park on tomorrow and Saturday, and then next weekend in Brunswick Park on Saturday, we're doing 18 trees. So it's like finally we're implementing the plan, and it's not something that's like sitting up on a shelf, collecting dust, which I know Jenny always hates and you always hate. So, so anyways, I have some flyers about the tree plantings. I hope you might consider coming to join us. Student Conservation Association is our contractor and partner in this project. And they'll be there, teaching people how to correctly plant trees. They'll talk about why the certain trees were selected. The trees were selected based on not just the inventory, but also a planting plan that was developed during the project. So, so anyways, it's really exciting to me because I had to go back to the budget so many times to try to make this work because our budget was cut in half when they gave it to us. That's the Community and Urban Forestry Program of DNR. It's an IRA grant, which I'm shocked that it wasn't yanked away, but here we are, getting all the trees in the ground, and then we have to maintain them for 2 years. Actually, it's a Student Conservation Association. So I'm happy to share this with you, and I'm going to have them pass around this thing first, and then we have to look at the school. Pass them around the other end.
Thank you for your comments. The next item on the agenda is brownfield action in Northwest Indiana.
Good morning. When we were planning this meeting, I have not talked to you guys about brownfield since 2019. So, and it's grant season, maybe. And so, yeah, it's that time to talk about brownfield. Some of you have been doing brownfields a while, and some of you may.
That's a polite way of saying we're old.
No.
Just checking.
I think that even people who've been doing this well can learn something. And so I'm going to give my presentation is going to be a little bit about the history of brownfields work in the area and then what we've done recently. And then Selena Green, our Economic Recovery Corps fellow, is going to talk a little bit about her work on kind of strategies for the not environmental part of the issue. And I do have a couple discussion questions, just kind of get some feedback from the group on what we're doing, where we're going. So if this isn't your bread and butter, what is a brownfield? In the state of Indiana, I like to break this up because all these conditions must be true. There's a couple of words, but it's kind of an and. It has to be a parcel. It has to be land. It can be a building, but it's got to be property. And it's either abandoned or inactive or not being used for what it's supposed to be used for. So sometimes that's even like a house that people are dumping in, or empty field that. And then we're using it for something else, either somebody growing a business or putting a new business there or a new residence there. It's complicated. And it may be complicated because of the presence of contamination or the potential presence of contamination, like guilty by association, guilty by looking bad. So, and then there has to be a risk that the property is creating or developing the property could create to the health or the environment. So I just put some pictures on to show, like some of these are obvious. Is this the pointer? right? I mean, okay, there's one bad. The obvious one is like the factory thing, right? Everybody, yeah, that's a brownfield. But this is like a strip mall. And most people might not think that a strip mall could be a brownfield, but it could be. It could have had a storage tank, it could have had a gas station next door, it could have had all kinds of things. This looks like an empty field. It happens to have been the most challenging of the brownfield projects I worked on recently. The only real hint is the little pipe thing in the front. And the second one, it just looks like a closed business. I actually thought this was maybe a nightclub or something, but it was a car repair facility. So all of these are brownfields. And some you can tell and sometimes you can't. So that's just kind of to tell you what we're talking about. We're talking about the realm of properties. So Northwest Indiana actually has a really long history of working on brownfields. And I kind of have, it's really more like 3 phases, but the early phase were like pilot projects. EPA was trying to figure out what this brownfield thing was. It came with Superfund amendments in the mid-90s that allowed a little flexibility around property. And so we had some investment in the region from EPA, mostly focusing on Gary Hammond Chicago. A nonprofit organization was created. NERC was on the board for that. And some stuff got done. And then there was a period of time where almost all the grants, individual cities were getting grants. And there wasn't really a coordinated effort. And then there was a coalition. We formed a coalition in more recent years due to shifting winds, I guess. And so that's kind of where we are now. And then, so the pilot project, I actually found files in my drawer, a book, a guide of how to do brownfields from the original nonprofit group. Some of the successful projects, one of the successful projects out of that is the West Point Industrial Park in Hammond. And I kind of show the block breakdown of the grants over I forgot, I can look at mine. $2.5 million were given to individual cities to do brownfield assessment. Then there was probably $500,000 in individual cleanup grants, another $2 million in combination grants, and then just over time, showing how much money, and on the bottom is a cumulative. The region has gotten $7 million of federal brownfield grants over that period of time. I would say there's other parts of the country that have gotten significantly more, but there's other, and why is that? And that's a good lot of different questions, but we've had $7 million to go into brownfields. Some of the early successes, most people are aware of the Lost Marsh Golf Course in Hammond, which was built on an old slag pile. And 1997 is when I actually came to Northwest Indiana. That project took, I don't know, a long time. It opened in 2003. That was a $55 million project. So, which is to say that, so that was one project. Another notable project in LaPorte County is the City of LaPorte Newport Landing. And that completed phase 1, and they were working on phase 2 back in 2012. So then we had kind of a reboot into regional coalition. And that some of the things that drove that in our 2040 plan, we had a whole big section on the urban core communities and reinvesting in them. If you can see typically up until then, it's been almost all Gary Hammond Chicago as Michigan City and the City of LaPorte. But you can see by the graphic, which shows the density, that the darkest brown color is up to 12 known remediation sites per mile. And even the lightest brown is between 1 and 2 remediation sites per mile. So you can see that it is a regional concern. And at the same time, a couple years later, during the Obama administration, HUD and EPA and DOT were kind of formed this Partnership for Sustainable Communities, and they actually embedded people in Gary and Chicago for a few years to try to help us move the needle further. So, we wrote, it took us 3 times to get the first grant, and I would say that's about my experience, that 1 out of 3 brownfield grants I have written has been funded. I don't know if that's a good record or not. It's a bad record when last 2 years I did not get one, so that's all. But so we formed the first coalition was the RDA and NERC and the cities of Gary, Hamby, Chicago. Then some of the rules changed and it became less advantageous for the cities to actually be in the coalition. So then we modified the coalition and we had ourselves and the Northwest Indiana Forum and the RDA again. Hold on. So we have had since 2014 about $2 million. There's $600,000 in a revolving loan fund that the RDA still maintains and is revolving. It's been paid back once and it's being paid back again. And that is for cleanup projects, and it could be anywhere in the RDA region. And then we had 2 different assessment grants. So all in all, we supported projects at 38 different sites. This is just a longer list, you don't need to know all that, but we've had new housing developments, water towers, medical facility, and industrial facility. And when I tried to look back on like the assessed value change, for the projects that I could find all the complete information for, increased their assessed value by $29 million. So, and that's an important thing that I wanted to talk about is that brownfields, it started an environment and they are an environmental issue, but for the most part, the challenges around developing brownfields are well, the success isn't really measured as much on the environmental issues. And from my point of view as a science person, the environmental issues have solutions. We know how to fix it. We know what the problem is and how to fix it, with maybe the possible exception of PFAS. I heard they were going to put that in. But new things come up, but for the most part, we know how to fix them. It's all the other stuff that causes a hurdle that is why we have to keep working on this. So just some of the examples, this is Lost Marsh Estates, that is New York Avenue, the North-South Street in Hammond. You can see kind of one of the golf course holes kind of sticking into there. We did an assessment on the property, and now there's a new subdivision and a new dorm for the Calumet College of St. Joseph. They didn't have residential before. And that was one of the first new housing developments in Hammond in like 20 years. And also in Hammond, Bank Calumet, you might not think of that as a brownfield. I wouldn't have necessarily thought of it as a brownfield, but it was an old building, it was abandoned for a long time. Having the funding and to do some sampling around it was beneficial to the new owners to know what they could do and not do, prevent future problems. And we actually found some contamination, but more on the alley side. So not the property owner's problem, but something we could notify the city about, so if they're doing work in the alley, they can be aware. So even though most of this presentation I'm talking about the monetary issues, in all cases, some environmental issue was resolved or confirmed, or what's the opposite of confirmed? Confirmed not to be an issue, or corrected. And I'm excited about this one because it's a housing project right near the new train station, and it's all part of the sensible growth that we want to see in increasing density in the region. And so we put $30,000 into assessment there. So that if we hadn't done it, I don't know if the project might have gone on, but it was an incentive for the developer, it helped them, and it helps everybody know that it's a clean and safe place to live. This is a newer project. This project, actually the first grant in 2014, we did some assessment work, and then we came back again and did more assessment work, and now they're finally developing it. This is on Wolf Lake, the old athletic fields from old Clark High School. again, it looked like it was like a track and a football field, and I don't know, who would have thought that was a brownfield, but there were some issues there. But they were easily solved once you knew where they were, and now they're putting in another new subdivision right across from the Wolf Lake Pavilion. This again is the auto repair shop that I thought had been a bar. Look, that's no, it doesn't. It was an auto repair shop, and now it is a brand new dialysis clinic, and it's right at Broadway, where East Chicago had invested a lot of amenities in streetscaping, walkability, and so forth. So it just adds a lot more value to that neighborhood and quality of life there than the empty thing. This is an interesting project that went sideways a while. We had a potential purchaser who planned to buy it. We did some assessment for them, and then there were so many problems on the site, and that purchaser, they were unable to close the deal. But unfortunately, some of the problems at the site were potential active releases, like mystery barrels. And so we did end up reporting that to IDEM as a problem. And it had been purchased, and this is another example, it had been purchased on tax sale without the due diligence ahead of time. So then the people who bought it didn't realize that they bought it full of barrels. And they also did not immediately establish site control. So they were like literally squatters running a business in their building, and they weren't aware of it. And so all of this is to say, so we kind of sent it to IDEM to get cleaned up. But it did get cleaned up. So all the barrels got removed. One of the owners ended up investing $360,000 to clean it up, but ultimately was able to sell it for $14 million. No, he sold it for 4.5. Now there's a new thing there. Lots of jobs in the neighborhood. There was actually solvent plume coming out of that facility under the street and approaching the neighborhood. It was not in the neighborhood, but we were able to do a lot of testing for people for their homes. The city had a street project plan, and so they did some additional work when they tore up the street anyway to resolve that. So that's just another, and then this is the Lakeshore Manor. This had 3 different brownfield sites: a dry cleaner, a former dry cleaner, a former gas station, and a former lumber yard where they treated lumber, all in the area that looked like a nice grassy field. Also had a plume that was kind of creeping under the alley and under the parking lot of contamination. So it is now a housing facility, but there's a vapor mitigation in the lower level so that nothing that's there. We also removed a lot of soil. I found out that there's actually a limit to how many roll-off rail cars you can get. Like, we did a lot of testing to make sure we only had to haul off the dirt that was contaminated. So we spent a lot on testing to reduce the amount of soil we removed because we literally could not get enough trucks to remove all of it, but we made sure it was all safe. But it was very expensive to do all that. $650,000. A lot of that was in sampling costs. And at Gary, this Ambassador Apartments was vacant for like 20 years. It was open to the air. There was, you can see lots of videos of urban explorers climbing around in there. And it was open with open friable asbestos that could blow out, and it was a hazard. And so we were able to use the first RLF loan, help them leverage their Oprah grant to take that down and have a safe space, remove a hazard. This is a really other thing we've done with Brownfield. We did this with our first grant, and it's called a transaction screen, which does not do all of the things of a phase 1 brownfield, which is what you need to do before you acquire any property to not be liable for it. But it does kind of give you a history of the properties. We did this. This is Miller, kind of 12 and 20. There where the new train station has happened. And there's 620 parcels in the grayed out area. And we did the real estate transaction screening. It's sort of like just the paper. We just look at the history of the properties and what was there before and what's in everybody's files. And it cost us $50,000 to do that. It was about $80 per parcel. But in the end, there was 83 parcels with potential environmental concerns. So that's only $80 each, compared to do an actual phase one is about $3,500 per parcel or per site. You can mix a few parcels. You could probably put 3 or 4 parcels together, but beyond that, it starts getting more expensive. But of the 620 we started with, we had 83 with potential environmental concerns. Then we funded phase one at 8 properties, and only one of them came back with no recognized environmental condition. All of the other ones would need further investigation before you should develop on them. And which is important because it's the further investigation. The phase one is should be just the cost of doing business. It's part of your due diligence. But if you find a recognized environmental condition, now you have to investigate. Now you have to talk to the brownfield program, and now that's going to cause you more time and more money to answer. Because the question is, what you don't know can hurt you. And I think that's a new, that is like in the beginning, back in the pilot years, I think it was more, people are like this too with the doctor, right? If I go to the doctor for this whatever cold, they're going to find 8 other things wrong with me and I don't want to go. I think that people in the urbanized area, a lot of property owners or property buyers took that approach to land. Well, what I don't know, if I look, I'm going to find something, so I'm not going to look, which is at least one contributing factor to so many vacant and underutilized and abandoned properties in some of the other communities. Okay, these are Brenda's slides. She couldn't make it today. They did a lot of planning in this Northside redevelopment area, and they've also been using a lot of the transaction screens just to get a handle on what's out there before they decide where to invest further resources. She likes to talk about the Sheraton project. They were able to use a brownfield assessment grant to demolish this hotel in order to sample the soil underneath it, which is allowed today. That was very, that's a very good example. Sometimes people don't want to get an assessment grant. All you can do with assessment grant is test and investigate. You can't actually clean anything up. But in some special cases, like to remove an obstacle to sampling, you can use that. And then they've put a rain garden in there. This is a video I'm not going to show because I'm already talking a long time. Of them demolishing it and putting in the rain garden right in front of City Hall. I did start the video. Good. And then they've done a lot of planning around Lake Sandy Joe Superfund site. The EPA has said it's ready for reuse. And they've done the community engagement, so now the next step for them is to find a development project that is ready to do that. So one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this today is because we're at a new juncture. What's next for brownfields? The FY 2026, the announcement of pending grant opportunity was released right before the government went on furlough. And so they haven't actually released the scoring criteria of the applications yet. We anticipate there's going to be changes in the scoring. In the previous administration, there was a lot of scoring around environmental justice concerns. And we anticipate that some of that might change. And the RDA is creating a land development entity that will help with some of the stuck land, we hope. NERC could apply for another coalition grant, or some of the cities could apply for grants, or the RDA could apply for a grant, or we could do a coalition grant. And this is just some of the different things you can do with the different grants. A city or a coalition can apply for an assessment grant. A cleanup grant, you have to be a public entity and you have to own a property that has a cleanup plan already. And you've even done some community relations work on it. So that's pretty much, I think, limited to cities or a redevelopment or a county could apply for a cleanup grant. And then revolving loan fund could also be an assessment, a coalition or a city or any government entity. And that's primarily for cleanup. You can give grants with a revolving loan fund, but we've tried to keep it as a loan. We do a zero interest for 5 years or 10. We have extremely friendly terms because the idea is to get things done, but to get some money back so we can keep doing more. But the revolving loan fund account is currently managed by the RDA. So I do have some discussion questions I'd like to get some feedback from this group on, but I wanted actually Selena to come up and do her talk about some of the other strategies she's working on. But some of the questions I want to ask, especially this group, what does success look like as a region? I've thrown a bunch of money stuff out there, and I think that's important. I mentioned some quality of life issues, safety, removing contamination, because we're the Environment Committee. But I don't know if people will have ideas about that. Do we need to move beyond? We tried with our last grant, we were open to the whole county, 3 counties. We got one project in Crown Point brought to us from the state, and we didn't really get any other interest from the other cities. And then what is NERC's role, or what should NERC's role be? Should we continue to try to form coalitions? Should we just be like technical support and advice? Should we do this kind of reporting out thing? And then what role can environmental stakeholders play? In some areas, a lot of brownfields end up going into green space, or parks, and we do have some very good Superfund sites that have nature preserves on them now. So those are my kind of things I thought we could talk about. And then I have some Peter stuff, but I want to invite Selena to come up. Okay. Okay, because I don't know if she just switch. I think if you just switch out your thing, well, you need the dongle too. Okay, so here, this is.
Try it.
Okay.
Give us a second.
No, I don't. What? I can unplug this one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one for the pointer. I'm not using that anyway. Everyone talk among themselves. Oh, does anybody have any questions for me while she's setting up? No. Does anybody have any questions? I just went through a lot of stuff. Yes.
How is the brownfield program taken to the public? I mean, is it we kind of wait for people to make application, or do we target specific sites, or how is this program?
Well, both things continue to evolve. When I first started, we were a lot more. It was going to be very opportunistic the first grant we did with the 3 cities, we let the cities suggest properties to us, and we did assessments on them. Some of them proceeded. East Chicago put new water towers on several. The second grant, we were a little more targeted. We were looking for properties that had a redevelopment potential, to keep feeling like we needed more public successes. In more recent years, the applications have required you to have your areas selected before, like the properties and areas you're going to work on selected before you apply. So we focus on a target area, So we've picked target areas based on the demonstrated need. Like there's a lot of buildings, there's a lot of low income population, there's a lot of risk and poor air quality and things like that. We don't really know. It does sound like they're going to want us to have target areas. Like if you have a coalition with 3 organizations, each organization has to have a target area to focus on. One of the things Selena's going to talk about, the last 2 applications, we were focusing on a corridor around I-90, the toll road, because we have the Quantum Corridor, we have double track, we have the Marquette Greenway, 3 pretty significant infrastructure investments that seem to be a good leverage opportunity if there's land around them that could be redeveloped. We don't really know what the scoring criteria would be. So to answer your question, we primarily were letting properties come to us. But we are trying to flip it now. We do have to flip it now and identify some ahead of time. But we can, but there's a lot of flexibility because a brownfield could be anywhere, an empty strip mall. Where's there empty strip malls? Everywhere. Or even older school buildings. Kay was in our coalition.
Yeah, I was Northwest Indiana Forum. I just want to set the expectation of everyone. The property owner has to be willing to go through the process. So that is the first step. I mean, it's one thing to have people come to the coalition and say, oh, I think this piece of property in corner of X and Y would be just great. You need to go there. It's like, well, there's a lot of work before you actually pick one. If you're working within a municipality, you have to be working with their planning and their redevelopment and their building departments because you don't want to go in and go to a piece of property that's not high on their list of action to be put into play. And so those 2 steps are very time consuming and very challenging. And so, you know, there's a lot of comments that are made is, oh, put it on a brownfield when it comes to a project. And it's like, if it was only that easy, we wouldn't have any brownfields right now. So I just wanted to set that expectation. And I apologize to Selena and to Kathy. I need to be in Highland in 35 minutes, so I need to leave. But it's been, you know, it was exciting to see Kathy's recap of what we did get accomplished. And I think we got great opportunities going forward as well. So thank you.
One comment I'll share, and you can probably move on, is you know, the TDD areas that have recently come into being. I'm confident there's some brownfield issues in some of those, and it might be really helpful to try to get together with the communities that have their TDDs, where they can talk with the landowners to see if they want any, you know, anything done to determine whether there's cleanup needed.
And we've been having a lot of those discussions kind of with the RDA, because it seems like the TDDs are their are the thing they've been focusing on, so that they would be a good entree point. But one of the reasons I wanted to talk to this group too is, I don't know, I've learned so much working on this in the last 10 years. And so now I drive around and I see construction projects or redevelopment projects, and I say to myself, did they do all their due diligence and homework first? And some of them did. I absolutely know, because that the distillery, Journeyman's, they did do all of the things, and there wasn't any federal grant involved. Everybody just did the right steps, and there are a lot of developers that are familiar with working with brownfields and do know how to do this stuff. But I also think there are places around the region where, I don't know, I've seen several hospitals go down quickly, and I wonder, like, did they do investigation? Did they do everything? Did they do due diligence, or is somebody later gonna, you know, I don't know. And also we learn new things. Like a lot of the things that were cleaned up in the 90s, nobody thought about vapor intrusion, which is when the volatiles in the soil get into the pore space of the dirt above them, and they really like to follow the path of least resistance, which oftentimes is a utility line that's going into somebody's house. So the vapors from whatever it was that we thought was fine, it's not in the water, it's not in the soil, maybe they can, now they're turning up in somebody's basement. So some sites we have to go back, are going back and checking that. So, but that turns out to be a relatively easy fix. It's similar to a radon fix. You just kind of fix it. But you have to know it's there first. But so Selena's been working on the other side. Yes.
One of the criteria that you put on the screen was, what is the role of NERC? Okay? And as you look at all of the parameters that are involved in this process, the role for NERC is education and getting the communities to understand what they can do, how they do it. And I don't think that's as difficult to put together as you might think, but being able to then take the information to the communities and say, if you're going this direction, some of the things Kay had talked about, here's the way you do it. There are so many elements involved with this, and you have, constantly new elected officials, you have people that really don't understand what's going on, that if you have an education program that allows them to understand what their role is and how we can help them, I think you're going to be far more successful.
Kathy, I really want to thank you for presenting at the Brownfield Conference that happened in Michigan City, I believe it was last year. And that conference had great attendance. It was a good mix of people from government, business, and just interested conservationists from the area. So I believe you're getting the word out, and I hope you had, contacts for that experience.
Yeah, Michigan City has done several Brownfield grants, and they tend to do their own thing sometimes, but they are doing their own thing, but it's good.
Right, okay. Hi, my name is Selena Green. I'm an Economic Recovery Corps Fellow. I've been working with NERC since February of last year. It will be a total of 2.5 years in my total engagement. And I'm here to just share a little bit about my work with the projects thus far, brownfield to quantum opportunities, and just sharing some insights that I've gained so far. And then also have some discussion questions for you. In some ways, piggybacking on what you've already discussed in terms of raising awareness and the need for that and more engagement. But I want to dig into that a little bit deeper. So the project that I've been retained to work on is site inventory for new business attraction to the Quantum Corridor. How many of you have ever heard of the Quantum Corridor? Is that something you're familiar with? Okay, a few people. So, I'll talk a little bit more about that and share some information, but the idea is that they're trying to redevelop a number of parcels along the toll road and really trying to understand the barriers to those, the redevelopment of some of the larger brownfield sites. And so the Economic Recovery Corps is a nationwide effort supported by the Economic Development Administration, as well as the International Economic Development Council. And there are 65 fellows placed all across the country, and I am one of the 65. There's another person attached with the city of Gary, and another Economic Recovery Corps fellow who's working in Michigan City, and there are fellows all over the country. But as I said, my project here with NERC is really to be the one person who's not, overwhelmed with other projects, to be able to do a deep dive into brownfields and what are the major obstacles, non-environmental obstacles to redevelopment, specifically in northern Lake County, that is Gary, Hammond, East Chicago, and Lake Station. And just making sure that we tie this back to the SEDS, we're doing this work because we want to support the regional goals in economic diversification and entrepreneurship. So, by identifying sites for reuse and potentially attracting this new and high-tech evolving industry, it gives the region a leg in a pioneering way. Also workforce resiliency and quality of place by, again, introducing new industries and making areas attractive for work and for living and for playing. So this is all supportive of that. And my activities to date, most of my work is community and stakeholder engagement. So talking to both redevelopment and community development staffers and city governments, as well as community organizations. If I haven't reached out to you, I would love to, so feel free to, I'll have my contacts at the end of this slide. But also mapping and property research and prioritization, networking with local and national experts who have done this similar type of work in other places. And I want to dig into this last part, analysis of redevelopment models, and particularly an ecosystem analysis. Brownfield work is not something that happens in isolation or in a silo. You really need multiple entities to work together, and that is what makes it challenging. But that's also where I think there are some opportunities in this region. And so I've been doing a deeper dive into that, what's missing in our ecosystem, where are the gaps, and how can we strengthen it so that we can take advantage of the opportunities coming our way. And lastly, researching funding opportunities and resource mobilization to fund these efforts. So far, we've looked at, there are thousands of vacant sites. Okay, but we've narrowed it down. We looked at just over 400, and then narrowed it down to 42 parcels. Again, focusing on what we know to be that quantum fiber corridor. And we looked at properties for known environmental issues, community concerns, zoning, infrastructure, and the assets that would be attractive to industries in the quantum and high-tech industries. And we're always evaluating additional sites as needed. So I can share the link to that map. It's attached to the slide. I can't open it right now. But basically, these are parcels that are, just over 20, 25 acres and larger. Properties that have been challenging to redevelop. Many of them are owned by their local city governments or the redevelopment commissions in those areas. And they've been looking for ways to repurpose them, but because they are so large and maybe don't have, there isn't existing necessarily office buildings or things like that, it's hard to think of how to redevelop them. And also they need a lot of pre-development money to make them viable. So that's what we've been looking at. So getting into some of the redevelopment challenges and opportunities. So one of the challenges that keeps coming up is ambiguous ownership and lack of site control. And so this is really an opportunity to address some of the policies in your communities that either allow for these ambiguous types of ownership or that will allow for speculators to acquire properties and not develop them. There are a number of communities that I've researched have had policies, codes, and other types of regulations to either incentivize property owners to engage in redevelop or to make it more challenging for speculators to do that type of thing. And so that's definitely something to think about in your communities where that's not already the case. The next one is limited redevelopment staffing. A number of the community offices have a one-person shop that serves as redevelopment, planning, zoning, the everything person. And it's really hard to do the day-to-day work and be the person who is raising capital for pre-development and being basically the deal maker to talk to site selectors and introduce them to sites and build relationships with property owners who may be looking for a way to support their redevelopment. It's hard to be the everything person. And so one of the other ways that we can support, or one of the opportunities to take advantage of, is how can we build the capacity of very small local governments to do these very large projects. I have some thoughts about that, but definitely want to hear more from you all about that. Another is developer hesitancy. They are often hesitant to invest in brownfields, and so we need to de-risk with transparent processes. Make it clear and easy, one-stop shop where developers know where to go and what to do to redevelop a brownfield in your area. I think one of the challenges in the region is that each community has some different rules. And so if a developer is talking to everyone and we're not talking to each other, that can raise some challenges. So I think to some extent, one of the opportunities is to work together and leverage mutual resources to make it easier for developers to know what to do in our region, to get information, and to know what incentives are available, etc. Other challenges and opportunities, there's potential for displacement. And so, of course, the opportunity is for engagement and also for avenues for community ownership. There are ways to engage local developers, to build trust with inclusive planning processes, to preserve heritage, and also to engage community members as co-owners of certain properties. There's a lot of work being done with shared ownership models, with crowdfunding, where community members can have a stake in the property that is being redeveloped. And so that is something to consider here as well, as you're starting from a clean slate and many of these transitions. If you want to keep them a certain way and preserve the character of your communities, community ownership might be an avenue to look at for certain properties where it's appropriate. And then also, challenges and opportunities are potential community opposition to certain reuse types. Early community engagement in planning is, of course, key to that and an opportunity there. And also increased awareness of key industries and community benefits. And that's something that I'm going to dive into in our discussion. And then lastly, limited access to redevelopment financing. A lot of the pre-work that has to be done to make some of these large brownfields ready for investment often comes from grants and from community development financial institutions or CDFIs, and from new market tax credits and other types of funding. And so as those federal supports change or become more limited, we really need to be creative in the region about how to bring redevelopment financing here, or how to have homegrown redevelopment financing efforts. And we have some great work that's being done with the READY Fund, but we need READY probably times 10 to do the amount of brownfield redevelopment that has to happen in this region. We really need, multiple, in the hundreds of millions to be able to do, all of, the work that has to happen in Northern Lake County. And so obviously it's a marathon, not a sprint, but that's definitely something that we want to build coalitions around and have someone who champions that redevelopment funding aspect. Okay, so some of the research, mobilization, work research that I've been doing, obviously getting ready for the EPA proposal development. Hopefully that will come through pretty soon. And then researching private opportunities, collaborating with the Economic Recovery Corps. They're doing nationwide fundraising efforts to try to support the follow-on for many of the projects that are happening in communities. And then supporting local communities' own efforts through partnership and technical assistance. Some of you raised the issues of communities being more informed and raising awareness. And so that's something that Kathy and I have been already piloting in the city of Gary, working with the Delta Institute and EPA and Indiana Brownfields, state officials to do local workshops to educate people about if you see a lot, if you see an area in your neighborhood, how do you know it's a brownfield? And once you find out it's a brownfield, what do you do? So we've been piloting some of those sessions there, and hopefully this is a model that can be transported and shared with other communities around. I believe it's on their Facebook page, but we could share information out about that workshop. I believe the next one is November 14th. If anyone wants to attend and just hear that and see if it would be appropriate for your communities as well. But definitely more awareness needs to be raised so that people don't incur liability when they're buying properties, and also to make more property owners aware of the support that is available. So some of the things that are next, it's more really focused on the sort of the right side, really crafting and proposing the redevelopment strategies for some of the priority sites, and continuing to engage with experts and leaders in the field, as well as with communities. So I do want to take a moment. We've talked a little bit about quantum business attraction, but what is quantum and why? What does that mean? So really it's sophisticated computing, but it's leveraging quantum mechanics to process data at very high speeds, and it's useful in the sciences, pharma, AI, defense industries, many of the industries that have been here in the region, and some of the site needs are things that the sites have in this region, so power, stable electrical load, proximity to institutions, and mid-sized facilities, which we have. So that's why this region is attractive for that. And some of the supply chain opportunities that we may be looking at in the region are cooling systems, semiconductors, which you may have heard of, specialized construction, and also software and data. Now, quantum is very different from data centers. Data centers are facilities that house servers and usually racks of computers, and it's what you would know of as cloud computing or the cloud. When people are saving something to the cloud, it's really most likely a data center. And so data centers are looking at sites anywhere from 10 acres to 50 acres and up, typically flat, typically having access to fiber, high capacity electricity, water and cooling, and minimal encumbrances. The prospects for brownfield reuse, there's a number of legacy sites that could be candidates for data centers or quantum, and they often are positioned well next to the fiber, positioned to Chicago, positioned next to water. But we know that there are one, there's curiosity, one, there's concerns, and there's also the need for transparency and engagement. So I wanted to hear from you all, where are you getting information from about redevelopment in your communities? And what are your concerns about potential redevelopment projects? How are you getting involved? And how ready is your community to evaluate some of these more sophisticated redevelopment projects that might be coming your way? Do you feel equipped to weigh in on those types of projects? So I'll pause here. If there are questions or responses to these or comments. Yes.
What meeting are you having on the 18th?
The 14th is
14th?
yeah, it's Gary Townmakers. It's a local community group in Gary where we're piloting some workshops to educate people on how to do brownfield research on a property that is of interest.
It's at IUN. No, that one's at IUN.
Oh, is that IUN?
Yes?
Okay, thank you. Well, in Michigan City, I as a city council person, I'm getting most of my information from the redevelopment commission, from the development commission, from our planning department, and then also from the Michigan City Economic Development Corporation, which is a nonprofit. And then I do a lot of research on the internet to be sure that I'm standing in a neutral position when things are coming up for consideration and vote. And Michigan City does have a data center going in on Royal Road. And I know they took advantage of brownfield cleanup And so the property was ready for a developer to come in.
Thank you.
And then I'm also gonna ask if you could go back to that slide, there was one before the data center. It has something to do with quantum qualifications, is it? Yeah, thank you. I just need to click these because they're excellent slides.
So that was the first one, and I'll click to the second.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
So yeah, where are we getting information from? Well, you know, Delta Institute, I think it might have been, did that study in Gary of all their vacant land. Was that data put to use during this assessment, or?
We've been challenged to, yes, we're trying to incorporate all the previous work into ours. One of the challenges has been, and Reggie mentioned, the administration's changed. And you know, there's a focus area, and then the administration changes, and there's another focus area. Well, great, I just did a bunch of assessment in that focus area, but yeah, let's move it. So that's one of the challenges, I think, of working at the regional versus the local level. So it's one of the reasons why I'm struggling right now, is it because we ultimately, NERC we can do education, and we can do information, and we can, but there's some stuff we're just not even really in most people's, in the conversation at the local level. And maybe we shouldn't be, because it's your town, right?
So my next question is, when you were doing the assessment of like prioritizing land and, you know, what's right for development, was any consideration given to setting aside certain properties that would serve as green infrastructure? So that's not all developed, but maybe this would be good for offsetting stormwater, or you know, restoring and habitat if there's like remnant dune and swale, you know, things like that.
Well, I know in our previous grant, we had, like, when we found out about a project, or came up to a project, we had like I tried to make it really, keep it simple, a 10-point scoring, and like because I did want to put that on equal footing, so that if a Shirley Hines or Nature Conservancy wanted to acquire a property for natural resources, we could assess that. We could still fund that, even though it's not traditional economic development, because we're the environmental department, and we see that environmental quality is economic development.
Offsetting flooding.
Yeah. And also, I think, Nature Conservancy, especially Midco, is all high quality natural area on a Superfund site. So, in particular, there's a lot of that in Lake County. And I don't know, I wonder if there's opportunities in the other communities that we haven't looked at. So I guess to the point, we weren't picking the properties. We were looking, you know, it's up to the cities to do that. Where do they want to save green space? Where do they want to develop? And it's the same for this. I mean, we obviously can say, well, that's a floodplain, you know, and I have drawn attention, that is in the critical area, habitat protection area, and so we should, you know, let's rethink whether that's really going to happen, or there's a lot of wetlands on that property. Yeah, it's a brownfield, but I don't think you can build what you want to build there. So yeah, there's some education back and forth.
Yeah, the Hoosier Environmental Council just released a comprehensive review sent specifically to municipalities on data centers. So as they look at that, they can make their decisions. Is there anything like that for quantum centers that municipalities can look at and get some idea about?
Not for the region just yet, but I would love to look at that and just see if, you know, we could probably adapt that to quantum. But I think what I wanted to get across is that for the quantum technologies, most of what you're looking at are labs especially when you're talking about material science and pharma,
Okay.
and then manufacturing. So you'd probably be looking at, transitioning legacy manufacturing sites as opposed to turning green space into manufacturing. So I definitely want to make that distinction between quantum and data centers, that the type of build and what goes in those places can be very different in terms of their purposes and the number of personnel and things like that. Quantum, you're looking at, again, labs, manufacturing, which is high head count, lots of people, workers, different, especially, highly skilled workers. Data centers tend to have less people, but much larger footprint. So
I've sat in on a number of public meetings in these communities when they were discussing the data centers, and there was never any option provided to them as as a quantum type facility for their area. I just think there's more information that needs to be out there for that.
yeah, well, that's what I was hoping to get to with this presentation, is that I think when people are unfamiliar with the technology, it all just sounds like a big alphabet soup and it all kind of blurs together. But the use cases really are very different, and you want people to be informed to make an educated decision about, what's happening in your communities, but to also be, aware that there are these distinctions, so that there isn't a need to necessarily feel afraid or overly concerned about everything, when they are very different, and there's ways to get the information you need to really discern what is appropriate for you and what you think might not be.
If you have a free date on December the 2nd, the Niceway Group, which is Lake Porter and LaPorte County, all of the municipalities will be meeting in the city of Gary. I certainly would give you time on the agenda to present that.
Okay. Thank you. I saw that.
Oh.
I would just like to share with these types of projects, I'd like to share the community, like the citizens of these communities, that perspective. So when these big projects come up, the community, or the citizens, I just want to focus on that part, we barely have any time to learn anything, because we find out typically when it's on the agenda, which is like a week before the meeting, or if we're astute enough, when we go to the planning commission in our city or the redevelopment commission, those things aren't even submitted until like 3 weeks before the meeting typically. That's typical. There might be exceptions, but sometimes it is 4 weeks. So when the community finds out, we barely have enough time to learn anything, and it's like scavenging the web rather than getting the details from our city people, our elected officials, but also staff, in a clear, transparent way. So it's a struggle, and it's contentious. It's a struggle just to get clear information, and it's hard to know the intention behind the project as well. Like, you can get all the facts, but you don't know what the city intends to do with that. So that's another, what I view as the critical part is, why is the city doing this project, and what benefits will it bring to the city, other than what the elected officials are saying, because sometimes that can be different.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that definitely is coming through clear, that there's a need for more information. I have engaged with a couple of commissioners who want to educate themselves so that they can be proactive in communicating to you, the constituents. But I think that we need a lot more of that. And so that is one outcome that I hope will emerge from this project, is just the tools and easy to digest resources that will make this easy for you to participate. Yes.
Judging by the number of dark brown dots on that map, this just seems like this is something we're going to be working on as a region for a while, right? And Kathy, I think you said there have been iterations of other coalitions before. Currently, there is or is not
Well, so there was the nonprofit Brownfield, Northwest Indiana Brownfield redevelopment. I'm looking at Reggie because she was the NERC person on the board at that time. And that was the North Lake County cities working together. And then the grants seemed to be going, and Michigan City got some grants, LaPorte got some grants, each city got some grants, and so then I don't think there was as much working together for many, many years. And then we started to partner with the RDA, and so we got 3 regional coalition grants. So right now, Michigan City still has a grant. And then Gary got a sub-grant from the state grant to do some planning and assessment work. So, so now I'm to that point where I'm trying to figure out, do I have buy-in for another coalition? Should we do another coalition? Should everybody apply for their own?
Right, okay, so that's what I thought I heard.
Yeah.
And I guess what I see that might be different now is that we have all these sustainability commissions coming up around the region that we didn't have before.
Well, and that's,
And at the last meeting, and I think you were, all sick from
yeah, it was a,
but I was talking about, how can we do a more inclusive, structure to this group to include, the sustainability commissions. And wondering on those off months between these quarterly meetings, if Selena has her term lasts for 2.5 years, could those be some dedicated meeting times where the call could go out to citizens, as James talked about, he's worked for a long time trying to get the group going in Gilbert, and then you've also talked in the past about having kind of a traveling roadshow with Groursy to go out to the citizen groups and present. So, just somehow opening those channels of communication, those are my 2 ideas to make it more inclusive and comprehensive.
yeah, I think, I often am delayed in my follow-up things, but yeah, I'm actually in Elm is a good example where my plan, City of Valparaiso actually snuck up and implemented the plan, and so I'm like, this is going to work. So I am going to be reaching out to the communities with sustainability commissions, committees. They all have different names, to ask for who is the appropriate contact. How would I, would you like someone from your group to represent you on this committee? That's one thing. I do think that each community is different. Brownfields is in the Sensible Tools handbook, and so it is definitely something that I think it's a question if that seems like something the sustainability groups would want to be involved in. Redevelopment is sometimes a difficult nut to crack, and sometimes it's not. It depends where you live. It depends whether there's a lot of that going on. I think to Susan's question, to the extent that we're putting new industries on previously we're recycling land, then we're not developing new green spaces, that's I think that's one of the strongest ways that we can support conservation. I think are the sustainability groups clearinghouses of information for their communities? So that's kind of the question, right? Do we need to, or is it a menu and they pick what they're interested in, or do they want to come to some place and meet, or?
I'm not talking about only meeting for them, but
Yeah.
Selena has a 2.5-year term.
Yes, that's true.
And we only meet quarterly, which just feels like a really big issue to only, you said the last time we talked about it was 2019.
So like a Brownfields is the last time I presented it here. So are you thinking like maybe a
in between the quarterly.
quantum, the intersection of quantum and sustainability, and talk about some of the different issues and do like a workshop?
Yeah. I'd definitely be open to that. So any opportunities to engage, and if there are other meetings that you know of that you think would be good for me to even sit in or just listen to, or to present, either one, I'd love to learn more. So this is my email, cgreen@economicrecoverycorps.org. You can take a picture of that and get in touch with me or with Kathy, and we work very closely together.
But as you put this together, keep in mind that you're educating the public. okay? And so your meetings cannot be at 10 o'clock in the morning when the public's working, okay? So you need to have, maybe come up with your program and have 3 sessions. And it will allow, retired people, working people, elected officials, all to hear this. You could do one at an NERC commission meeting if you wanted to get to the elected officials. But so many times we've had things here and the same people show up that this is either their job or they're not working, but the public needs to know, okay?
Yeah, we've had better turnout of some of the town
Yes.
people that I was hoping would be here today, and I don't know if there's a conflict today, but, because I do think in Northwest Indiana, there's a tendency to think that, the data center quantum stuff is throughout the region, but there's a tendency to think brownfields is a Gary problem or brownfields is a Chicago problem, but it really isn't any place. Some of us remember when every Sears, Kmart, Montgomery Ward, they all had a mechanic shop, and there were dry cleaners on every corner, and so, and maybe people don't remember that was there, so I think there could be, I think the education piece maybe is where a lot of the other communities are at.
Quick question, Celine, are you working on any EDA programs for any of the 2025 disaster supplement grant programs in the area?
Good question. I am not currently, but I know there is interest in making sure that the region submits proposals. Dennery has been in touch with a number of communities and folks who may have expressed interest, but right now I think the stage is that we're sourcing projects that would be eligible for that. So I'm not directly working on it, but I am aware that NERC is trying to make sure that there are some submissions coming from the region. I don't know, Kathy, if you have any updates.
That's about what I know too.
Yeah, but Dennery is the point of contact for that, Dennery King.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Hearing none, we'll move to the next topic, which is
Thank
NERC
you.
projects and programs. Yes, thank you, Selena, for that great presentation.
And I see community fall tree distribution summary is first on there. So I will just kind of announce where we are with Community. For those of you not familiar, which most of you probably are because I talk about it a lot, Community is a partnership of multiple organizations throughout Northwest Indiana working together to improve the urban forest. NERC is, of course, one of those partner organizations, and we've had since 2017 a distribution program where we award trees to our municipalities, our community organizations. We can work with faith groups, schools, things of that nature. And so in 2025 as a total, so both spring and fall rounds, NERC did distribute 487 trees. That brings us to a total of over 4,600 trees distributed by NERC alone. When you combine that with the other core community partners who are also planting, those being Student Conservation Association, Wildlife Habitat Council, Susan, TNC mentioned that they've been planting as well. Yeah. When you take that all combined, we've planted over 13,500 trees. Those numbers are very conservative because we don't have the reporting for 2025 for SCA yet. But I believe once we have that in, we will be closing in on the 15,000 trees.
That's amazing.
Planted.
Thank you, Lisa. Good job, Jen.
So yeah, look forward to next year because I do anticipate that sometime in 2026, we will cross that 15,000 trees, which is incredible because it seems like we just got to the 10,000. Susan, I mentioned that we've got to add your numbers in here as a community partner as well.
I'm going to submit that column tomorrow, so
Okay.
I put 14,000, so I should put nearly 15,000 maybe?
Yeah. I think you could safely say nearly 14,000, and also I realize these numbers don't include SCA's 2025 numbers, which I would anticipate are close to 500. So I would say in reality, we're probably well over 14,000, but I try to stay conservative with the numbers and what I can document. So
And then I just wanted to give an update. Many of you, when you talked about this in August, we've been partnering with Chicago Mayor's Caucus and the Chicago Metropolitan Agency on Planning for a comprehensive climate action plan for the greater area, and that our own climate action plan got put on the back burner for a little while because of that. And so that we had the final steering committee for that project 2 weeks ago. And we are, so we're wrapping up the draft. We're gonna have like basically a boring Word version that we submit to EPA, who of course may or may not be there to receive it, and a public version, you know, that's like desktop published with and easier to follow, coming out probably in early 2026. And then we're going to be trying to follow up with a new inventory for 2025 to show how things are going, and we'll be circling back to take all this new information and more technologically obtained information from that planning effort into our own next year. And I may use one of those other Thursdays to reboot that. So that's just to let you know about that. And I think there's a lot of information still up on CMAP's website on the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan. And you can watch all the meeting recordings and all the meeting packets and memos. And so I'm excited that we're wrapping that up, this big effort for that too. That's what I have.
Okay. The next agenda item is planning partner updates. Dry Clean Indiana. All right.
All right, good morning, everyone. Just gonna plug in here real fast. Just have some updates here. So the GoEV IN funding has been announced and contracts are coming out as of Friday of last week. The DC fast charging station projects are taken at priority, and the level 2 projects will be forthcoming within the next week. And yeah, these are just the list of the different projects that are in the NIPSI territory. And then we have the diesel-wise funding projects who contracts just were all signed recently as of Friday as well. So that'll be moving forward for the city of Whiting with their propane garbage truck replacements and street sweepers, and then dynamic metal recycling over here right outside the Port of Indiana. We do have Tesla wall charger donations, and we have about 18 Tesla universal wall charger and 9 pedestals that need to find a home. So if there is interest in your community, please reach out to us and we can get those going and get those installed. There will be funding coming up in the next month. That's going to be for diesel replacement funding, and that's going to be 25% off new clean diesel replacements, 35% off CNG and propane replacements. I apologize that it's flickering. I don't know why it's doing that. And up to 75% for all electric replacements and 50% off port and drayage replacements. And this, the Lake and Porter County ZEV project is rolling out here. There is going to be an amendment that's going to be voted upon at the NIRPC meeting in December. The first 3 electric vehicles were delivered to the city of Lake Station in July. Interlocal agreements, memorandums of understanding are going to be coming out here. Just a quick update. The attorney of Lake Station is very pleasant to work with right now. So there was a change of pace. And then how this is rolling out, so after the amendment is approved, LPA contracts will be sent directly to the municipalities. The ones that are here listed that will be in the amendment in December are all listed with the quantities and the award amounts.
So for those of you who don't know, we tried to run all of these vehicles through one LPA and one NDOT contract. And we've been trying to do that for several years now, and we finally cried uncle. So now Lake Station will not have to buy like 100 vehicles. They will, or everybody's gonna get their own grant.
Who donated the Tesla units?
Elon, don't hold it against us. They are very good units, and it is the most capable and ease of use to own and operate from a charging station standpoint.
Are those the new generic units that any
Yeah.
electric vehicle can use?
Generic, so it's universal, not generic.
Well, I'm generic.
Yeah, but yes, so any EV can be charged.
That's good.
And then there is an update regarding the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure program that's managed by NDOT. So it's restarting after a pause in January, after a lawsuit was filed from 14 states. And basically, as of September, they're going to be renegotiating with the 39 awarded locations. There's about $92 million that is available. No infrastructure has been placed in the ground through this program. And the big changes that are coming since it was really originally announced and proceeded with during the Biden administration is remove specific distance requirements between the stations on the alternative fuel corridors and fewer impediments for the states to be declaring a full alternative fuel corridor build out, which what that means is all the major highways and roads here in the state of Indiana and the crossroads of America, Route 30, Route 41 from state line to state line, those are the smaller roadways that are included in the alternative fuel corridors, and it's all the other major highways. So after the GoEVIN charging stations are implemented, we feel that north of Kentland is the only remaining gap, if you will, for the build out of the AFCs in Indiana. So good news is there will be more funding left over for local community projects. The electric vehicle charger reliability and accessibility accelerator, it's still put on pause, no update there. We do have the Midwest ZEBI program, and if you could get in between the blinking here, there is a survey to take, and this is focused on the I-80 corridor, specifically for Lake and Porter County, to effectively plan and allocate resources necessary for medium duty and heavy duty trucking in our state. And all of the surveys and the work going into this will lead to future projects, so this is a good thing. And then, yeah, this is just a list of our upcoming events. We're going to be we started the Crossroads Clean Energy and Transportation Forum. During the inclement weather months, we will be having webinars, but we had our first one back at the end of October in Maryville, and we're going to be doing these across the state. So please check out the website for more information across there. And then we are going to be having a big stakeholder breakfast in Indianapolis during the NTA Work Truck Week on March 11th. Maybe a certain race car driver that was on Dancing with the Stars will be the headline speaker. And that's pretty much it. We will be having our annual conference next year in November in Michigan City again.
Have you done any interaction? Purdue opened the Purdue Rose School, the LTAP program, opened an office in Crown Point, and they're going to be coming out telling municipalities what they can do. I'm just wondering if you're working with that office.
Yeah, with Rich?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We keep in contact a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
so yeah, Rich is good. All right, no questions? Yes, sir.
I'm from Hobart, so I'm just wondering how that $166,000 is going to be used there. Does that go to vehicles or
Yeah,
charging or both?
So this specifically is for the electric vehicles itself. The majority of the electric vehicles in Hobart are going to be going to the police department. And so they're looking at Ford F-150 Lightnings. And I think we have a total of 14 allocated to the city of Hobart. So we've been working really good with Chief Garrett and the mayor and the team there. They've always been excellent to work with, but that's probably one of the biggest deployments through this project. So it's basically covering up to $33,280 per electric vehicle purchase. So the cities and municipalities have choice of what they're wanting to purchase. But with all that being said, it's a good program. The deployments with the city of Lake Station, with the averages of their what they have been operating those vehicles on for the 4 months that they have, it looks like it's going to be saving $1,100 per year annually per vehicle. So it's a big fuel savings, and these are nice vehicles after it's all said and done. They did Ford F-150 Lightnings. Yes.
What Highlands doing?
Yes, so Highland is going to be another police project. So Chief Benaziak, he's been very interested in this, and so we're going to be rolling out 4 of those in there, and that's going to be a very good project, and he's all for it. So they're very excited about that one.
New Chicago, the same thing?
No, New Chicago is going to be more so of a public works vehicle for, you might know him, Robert George.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, the water department.
So would any of the Tesla charges that you have, would those be available to, or are Hobart and Highland going to install charging stations?
So they're after it's all said and done with the quagmire of different issues that has come from the original coordination of this project. There's about $1.1 million left over that Lake Station and these 20 other communities that we're going to be putting public charging stations inside these different communities. And so it's up to 80% funding, very similar to the ones in Highland, right? And so that MOU is forthcoming, and we're working right now between Lake Station and the city of Hobart to get that one going. The city of Hobart's looking at like 12 locations that they want. So the Tesla, when it comes to different governmental and grant contracting requirements, we do have the Tesla donations, and some of the Tesla donations are allocated for the cities listed here. But there's going to be some sort of quantified purchase agreements or Sourcewell contracts that are publicly bidded, so that we don't have to go out to public bid for these smaller projects. So that will be taking place, and we're working through it with the cities as far as what they want to do and explaining the differences of one technology over the other. Because there's only about 500 hardware and software providers for electric charging stations. And all this is going to be implemented by local union electricians that are already contracted with the municipalities too. Just bringing this up, the charging stations that was installed, it's a Tesla Universal Connector project at the city of Hobart that was installed in April. They've generated over $5,000 in revenue for that station at the end of September. So these are doing pretty well as far as the amount of money and return on investment that comes into play here. Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, no other business under planning partner updates. I'm sorry, Lake Michigan Coastal.
Yeah, sorry, I'll keep it really brief. But the Coastal Grants Program application window for the 2026 cycle has officially opened. For once, our update is in my domain. I'm Catherine, I'm the grant specialist, so I can speak to this a little more in depth. We've discussed some of the ups and downs of being a federally funded program here before. So basically our plan is to continue with the grant cycle until we are told that it is no longer an option. That hasn't happened, so we will be accepting 3 proposals, which is stage 1 of a year-long application process until Friday, December 5th, if anyone is interested in applying.
Can you give the 3 that we decided on, the 3 categories?
Yes, thank you, I apologize. So our funding priorities for this upcoming grant cycle are conservation in its many forms, whether that's land acquisition or habitat restoration, public access, as well as any education and outreach initiatives that we would like to develop, implement, or build in any stage of existence. You can reach out to me. My contact information is available on the Lake Michigan Coastal Programs grant page, as well as the pre-proposal form itself. It's just a 4-page PDF. It's meant to be a really shallow, introductory, preliminary level of just getting your ideas for your project formulated, who your partners will be, a tentative estimate on your budget, things like that. I do intend to host at least 1 or 2 public workshops. If anybody is interested in participating in those, basically you just get to meet with me and whoever else decides to come out that day, and we walk through the pre-proposal form, go over any questions or concerns you may have as you're developing your project. And again, submission deadline is Friday, December the 5th, 11:59 p.m. You just email those directly to me.
Are there either minimum or maximum ground dollar amounts?
Yes, there are, and that depends on what type of project you are interested in. Our pre-proposal guidance is just like a PDF of instructions and sort of FAQ information that's also available on the Coastal Grants Program website. So I would defer to what's on that.
One of the things you can do is submit your proposal, and she will help you. And
Yes.
we also look, as the board, we'll look at them and come back to you and maybe make a recommendation that this is a great proposal, but let's cut it down a little bit, or you could add more money to it, either way.
Yes, thank you, Lindsay. That's important. This is phase 1 of a 2-phase application process. You can reach out to me at any point if you would like comments or feedback or any changes or recommendations made to your draft proposal before the submission deadline. And then if, as you said, the Coastal Advisory Board decides that they're interested in your project and maybe more, they'll have recommendations which I will communicate to you through on their behalf. And the same process would repeat if you're invited for the full proposal. You can reach out to me at any time. I'll offer as much comment or feedback as you like.
Is it 20 or 25 years you have to maintain a on-the-ground like habitat restoration project?
20 years.
Yeah, we're in our final year next year for Ogden Dunes on Lake Marsh. So
Yeah, I think our prairie up here is about done. I think they had a year left.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, that's the big one from Coastal. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you for your comments, and I hope Beverly Shores will be on your list this year again.
Anybody, always welcome.
Great. Are there any announcements?
Can I make one?
Yes, please.
The NICEWI group, for those of you that aren't familiar, is the Northwest Indiana Stormwater Advisory Group. These are all the municipalities that are required to operate under a stormwater permit. They're also required to work with their contractors and developers, so we will have a certification workshop on February the 17th in Maryville, the community building. We're up to 300 contractors attending, and there's no cost. I keep it free, the sponsorships, and they have to have the certification to work and build in communities, so if you know one, get it up.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Is this announcement time? Or is
It's
this-
announcement time.
Okay, great. Tonight is, of course, Northwest Indiana Green Drinks, and I'm inviting everybody to an extremely special and rare presentation. Dr. John Lowe, who is a citizen of the Cape and Van and the Potawatomi, will be celebrating National American Indian Heritage Month with us. And his topic will be on Chicago is on the lands of the Potawatomi, the importance of land acknowledgements for Chicago and Northwest Indiana. Racine of Save the Dunes heard him like a year ago and has been working to schedule this for months. He's agreed to come and be there. He charges thousands of dollars for people to come and see him in person on these streets. So I'm encouraging everybody to take advantage of this extremely rare opportunity. You can tune in by going to Save the Dunes Facebook page and listening on the live feed, or you can get the Zoom link from M. That's em@savedunes.org. Again, that's MEM@savedunes.org. And I cannot explain how excited I am that we're having this, especially during the month of Thanksgiving.
Is it live?
Yeah, that's what I gave you. Yeah, it's a live feed.
No, but I mean, can you attend somewhere?
No, these are all virtual now.
Okay.
And we do that so more people can attend. We've got people from California, Canada, and Florida join us. Everything is recorded now, so if you did miss something, you can go to Save the Dunes page on YouTube. And all of those are available afterwards too. So yeah, we gave up the live for greater availability and greater access and historical archives also. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to make an announcement. You may have not noticed that Flora Baum, our administrative assistant for this meeting for many years, has moved on to a different career. So we are experimenting with self-administering department meetings, self-administered department meetings. If you did not sign in that you are here, please sign in that you are here so we make sure we capture everybody. And we don't put email addresses on here anymore, but if you're not getting notifications of these meetings, put your email address in the agenda item topic. So, I mean, you're all here, so I assume you all got them, but just to be clear, so.
I have just one question. If you look at your agenda, it says the next EMPC meeting is scheduled for November 6th. That's today.
No, mine says February 5th.
Are you looking at the minutes perhaps?
No, I've got the agenda.
Oh, maybe.
Did you print it off?
I followed your directions and I printed it off.
Oh, well, perhaps there was a.
You know what, I'm gonna back her up, because I saw that at 6 o'clock this morning.
Okay, so, and that is also the explanation for any quality control issues that occurred.
You lost your staff.
Well, now that we've had the announcement that the next meeting is actually February 5th at 10 a.m., not November 5th, if there's nothing else to come in front of this body, I would move for adjournment.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. We are adjourned.